someone. All right, I will ask someone, and in this case, Miss McDonald, I can see your face. So when I set up my slideshow or my videos, I'll ask if you can see it or hear it, just to make sure everybody's okay. So you're good? Okay, here we go. Habit 5, take a look, everybody. Seek first to understand, then to be understood. This is all about effective communication. You know, research says that organizations all over the world fail for a variety of reasons. But the number one reason that organizations and families fail is due to a lack of effective communication. Do you believe that? Do you believe that communication is so important, so paramount to a family, to a relationship, to an organization, that without it, it can completely fail or fall down? All right, I see some head nods. Absolutely. So this is the habit of empathic, not sympathetic, empathic listening. So we're going to talk about that tonight, and I can't wait to share what empathic really means and how we can look in a family. All right. So here's a look for those of you who haven't been with us, and for those of you who need a refresher. Here is a look at the 7 habits of highly effective people. This round circle, as always, is called the maturity continuum. And Dr. Stephen Covey put these 7 habits into this order for a reason. He said that we need to first work on ourselves. That's the bottom of that circle, with habits 1, 2, and 3, to go from dependence to independence. Once we've mastered some of that, and again, we'll never fully master anything because we're human beings, right? We're never perfect. But once we get these habits under our belt, then we can work more effectively with others. And up top, above independence, you will see habits 4, 5, and 6. And those are the habits that lead us to interdependence. For lack of a better definition with interdependence, it would be, how do we play nice in the sandbox? How do we really get along with others? And again, it's not always easy. Habit 7 in this model is sharpen the saw, and that's a habit of renewal. Your heart, mind, body, spirit, and taking care of yourself, remembering that when you're not well, and we're whole people, we're not just one aspect, we're whole people, but when we're not well, we can't truly live our purpose in life. So there's a big picture of the 7 habits, and you can see habit 5 right in there, in the public victory and how we're getting along with others as we head towards interdependence and working well with other people. Any thoughts before we continue? Thoughts or comments from our team? All right, I want to hear your voices. I've missed everybody over the holidays, so make sure you jump in. And Ms. McDonald, you'll then let us know if there's anything in the chat. All right.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, a reminder that habit 4 was thinking win-win. Remember that? How do I win? How do you win? How do we fail forward? How do we take our biggest failure and look at it and think of it as a win in some way? That's not easy. That's an attitude. When we look at habit 5, however, it's a skill. Now listen to me, people. This is really key. Have you ever talked to someone who said, I don't communicate very well. It's just not my thing. My parents didn't communicate well. My sister didn't communicate well. It's just not my gift. Okay, well, after tonight, this is what you're going to tell that person. Well, it's your fault, because you'll say it nicer than that. Communication is a skill. It's something that can be learned with practice, with an open mind and an open heart. We can learn the skill of communication. It's not like a natural talent. We don't fall out of the sky as natural communicators, believe it or not. I mean, some of us are better and more practiced than others. I get that. No more excuses. All right, so when you see that person, let them know it's a skill. Maybe you can even help them out. When we talk about synergy next week, and we have 2 sessions left after this, we'll talk about how we get along with others and how we embrace diversity and strengths on teams. Is really exciting. You will love that. And then our last session will be around habit 7. So let's go back to habit 5 and take a look at what we call the principles of effectiveness. What really is habit 5? Okay, so let's take a look. It's respect. We could use some more of that in this world, right? Did you ever feel like people have gone a little crazy? It seems like I was listening to a radio station the other day, and the announcer was saying, everybody's so mad. Did you ever feel that way? Like even on TV, the news stations, people at the grocery store, even through the fast food, people are angry. It's a tough world out there, and respect can sometimes feel like a lost art, but that's huge for communication. Number two, mutual understanding, really trying to put yourself in someone else's shoes. That's empathy. Okay, so those two are highly connected. And then courage. And I love this word in communication because tonight we're going to talk about the courage to be respectful, the courage to be quiet when we need to be quiet and not share our opinion. Not always easy. And then the courage to speak up and to share how we feel and what's important to us and when that's appropriate. This is all good stuff. And remember, parents, as we're talking tonight, and I'm a mom of 3 and a grandmother of 4, these are things we not only want to embrace for ourselves, but we want to teach our kids as well. By the way, as we go through this slideshow, feel free to take any pictures of these slides that you'd like to. These are for you. I can't hand you the slideshow, but you can certainly take some pictures. All right. Any comments, any thoughts as we move forward? All right. Here we go. Common paradigm of habit 5. Take a look. I need to make sure people understand my point of view. Well, friends, we've all been in relationships like that, or in circumstances where we're with someone where they were the center of everything. And they wanted to be sure, no matter what, that everybody understood them. Not so great for relationships. Here's the highly effective paradigm right here on the right-hand side of my slide. The belief that I have greater influence, higher relationships, higher trust with people if I truly understand them first. Woo, this is not easy. Dr. Stephen Covey, who wrote this work, said that this habit was his toughest habit. And from all that I've seen, I haven't met him, but all that I've seen is that he's a very high level communicator, and he struggled with this. So no judgment. We're all just going to get better at this each and every day. All right. We're going to keep going because here's a common practice I want you to take a look at. Oftentimes we listen with just the intent to reply. There's so much in our brains right now, and life is so fast. Sometimes people will be talking at us. Maybe they think they're talking with us. And inside, we're just thinking about, okay, how do I reply? How do I move on? Instead of really staying present, staying still, and listening to that person who we're with. Again, this is a skill. And sometimes we confront and offend people, maybe not on purpose, but because of our approach or even our voice tone or our voice level. Our attitude and our approach can make or break communication. Also, sometimes we become passive and we don't speak up at all when we should. We all have opinions and we have things that are important to us. And there is a time for courage. And so how do we balance that courage and consideration? That's the key. All right, take a look at this. Highly effective practices. Number 1, we're going to practice empathic listening. Parents, tonight, this is your homework, okay? Or even tomorrow. I'm sure you're going to be getting all things ready for the kiddos tonight, but think about finding somebody this week, either by phone or in person, that might be difficult for you to get along with. Maybe this is even someone in your family. Sometimes that happens. And you're going to practice empathic listening. After you leave this session tonight, you're going to have some tools for that. And I can't wait to hear how it goes. So this is your homework, empathic listening. And again, I'll show you how to do it. You can handle it, no sweat. The key right there is to respectfully seek to be understood after you practice empathic listening. So taking it in, staying still, listening to that other person, and then respectfully seeking to be understood. Now, if trust is low with someone, if your relationship is not going well and trust is really, really low, they don't really care what your opinion is, do they? And so maybe you won't even seek to be understood with those people who you don't have high trust with. I want you to think about that as we move forward. Actually, when we think about habit 5, we call it a paradigm shift, a change in the way that we're thinking. And it's not easy, but again, it's a skill. So here's the question for everybody. Let's go to the chat box. What gets in the way of effective listening? Why can't we be better at it as human beings? Ms. McDonald, get ready, because people are going to go into that chat and they are going to tell us what gets in the way of listening. Go ahead, everybody.
Brianna said emotions.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I think definitely for that.
Yeah, especially when we hold those really strong beliefs, it's really hard not to get emotional.
I would say being so confident in what you think that other opinions don't matter.
Yeah, absolutely. We're seeing so much of that, I think, over the past few years.
Sharon says tasks I have to get done. And Crystal says, for me, it's distractions. I'll be thinking of everything else I have going on.
Yeah, that's that whirlwind in our mind, right? Yeah. Time. Don't you just feel like sometimes, you want somebody to get right to the point? Like, okay, give me the short version. I've actually said that to my family members, which I would not recommend. That is not highly effective. So please don't tell your friends to give you the short version. But we do get so busy, don't we? Caught up in the whirlwind. Okay. So again, ask your family members when you have that Sunday night meeting, that family meeting, ask your family what gets in the way of us being better listeners with each other. I think it might be a really cool conversation, especially with your kids. Ask them how you're doing if you want to be really brave. Ask your kids how you're doing as a listener. I wonder what they would say. Let's think about that for a second. You think they'd give you an A+? I wouldn't get one. I get an A+. I'm going to hope for a B. I know there are times when I'm pretty much down to a D or an F, but again, situationally things change. So don't be too hard on yourselves. We're all going to get better at this. Here's the problem. Sometimes we get caught up in the actions or the behaviors that you see here on the screen. We want to listen empathically, but sometimes we start probing, asking questions when that person hasn't finished talking, or they'll finish talking and then we'll evaluate or judge what they've said when maybe all they wanted to really do was to vent or just to talk through something. Or we advise when they haven't even asked for our advice. Now, sometimes people will ask for it and sometimes they won't. Do we know the difference? Do we know when to advise and when not to? Or sometimes we interpret what they're trying to say. I wonder what they're really trying to say here. And that can kind of disintegrate trust as well when we don't take people at face value, when we think there might be some kind of a hidden motive. So as human beings, these things aren't bad, inherently bad, but sometimes we get so caught up in these that we can't just stay still and listen to the other person. Any thoughts from you? I'd love to have somebody jump in. Nobody? We have a quiet group. Okay, it's still a wide open invitation as we move forward. I'm going to show you a fabulous video. It's going to kind of bring all of this together. And Dr. Covey's going to talk about habit 5, what it means to us as human beings, and how we can get a little bit better at it. All right. Give me that thumbs up when you can hear it, Ms. McDonald. And let's get started.
One thing that gets in the way of meaningful communication is autobiographical listening. This means that we filter what others say through our own story, our own experiences, our biases, prejudices, and all of our values. You see, when I listen autobiographically, part of my story gets added to your story. And then when I respond, I base it on my own frame of reference. I might ask questions, or I might agree or disagree. I might decide it's necessary to counsel you, or try to solve the problem or fix the situation. So with the best of intentions, I can end up leading the conversation. And even worse, I don't hear what you're really trying to say. Autobiographical responses fall into 4 categories. Probing, asking questions. Evaluating, like agreeing or disagreeing. Advising, that is giving counsel. Or interpreting, or trying to figure a person out or to analyze them. But don't misunderstand. Autobiographical responses can be very appropriate, especially when the emotional bank account with another person is high. But when real understanding and clarity are needed, and when the problems are very emotional, autobiographical responses only get in the way. Watch the impact of autobiographical responses in the next segment.
Doing your homework?
What's the point? I'll never use it.
Of course you will.
Classical Greek drama. Not likely.
No one gets anywhere without an education these days.
Really? Joe's got a full-time job and he's already a manager. He has his own car, his own apartment. And me? I'm not that interested in this.
But you're interested in this.
Absolutely. I just think it's a waste of time to learn something you'll never use in the real world when I could be out working, getting a real experience, making money.
So you want to quit. Think about your sister. She struggled in school, but she worked hard, and now she's
the queen of college and probably become a brain surgeon and in global warming. Not my sister, Mom.
I know it's hard right now, but all the effort will be worth it. When I was your age,
You wanted to join a rock band and travel the world, but instead you chose hard work and all this.
You just have to hang in there.
No, I don't.
Fine. Quit. Move in with Joe. You think life is so wonderful, so easy? Maybe then you'd appreciate what you have here.
Fine, maybe I will.
Fine.
Oh, that was so painful. Well, parents, whew, let me start my video so you can see my shocked and disappointed face there. You know what? I think I've been there before as a mom. And there's a lot to dissect. So let's take a couple minutes. What do you think? What did she do wrong? What did she do well? Let's analyze. Somebody jump in.
I think with so many students, that's a common comment about taking courses that's not really relevant to what they want to do, what they believe. I think in this situation, to just step back and take an opportunity to really hear was important to him.
Dr. Brown, and you know, as you said that, I was thinking, and I've seen this before, of course, this video, but if this were my first time, I still would have believed that he just needed to be heard, that there was something deeper, that he probably really didn't even want to move in with his friend. Something deeper there. What else, everybody? What are you thinking?
Hello.
Hi.
I agree. I feel like he, was just kind of speaking out because he wanted to be heard. He wanted his mom to hear him, but also, kids, they need to hear their parents. Because, as a parent myself, we've gone through things and we're just trying to speak to our kids and so they don't make the same mistakes that we did. I got it from my mom, my dad, they told me, well, education is key, and it is, but everybody doesn't have that educational trait. And I feel like as educators, if we make education fun and interesting and we teach them also life skills that they will use as they're older, they'll like it and they'll want to do more and be more active and come to school, going to college. So I just feel like in that video, he just wanted to be heard. And his mom should have listened and could have just listened and maybe had a conversation with him maybe that next night. But I felt like as a parent, she still should have, fought for education is key. That's your ticket to, doing what you want to do, I don't know.
No, Miss Gibbons, that was beautiful because I think you put your finger on the pulse of what was going on. She was afraid. She let her fear of her son making those same mistakes or not embracing education, right? Or not having that equitable playing field. Her fear drove her to shut him down. What do you think?
I agree.
Yeah, yeah. And so she, as a mom, if she had gone through this training, she she would have known there's a better way to still do what you said, Miss Gibbons, value education and encourage without pushing him into a corner. Because her fear, and I've done this, I watched that, I'm like, that's me. Because of her fear, he got to the point where he's like, fine, I'm moving with Joe, right? And that didn't have to happen. So rewind, that didn't have to happen. Let's keep talking before I show you what happened when she finally went through the 7 habits training. Okay. But who else has a thought about this, about what she did or what she didn't do? Because she didn't do everything wrong. Any other thoughts?
Betsy, I would have to say that I think they could have taken, she could have, I know it's hard when there's emotions involved and she's worried, but there's a lot of opportunities in fields that weren't around when a lot of us were, growing up and raising children. So she could have pointed out that there are jobs and careers related to video games or things he's interested in,
Yes.
which I know is hard, but a lot of new age jobs, things that we never would have thought of are being offered and make a lot of money. So that could be
So,
an option.
yeah, and I'll tell you what, I don't know. I think, did he say Joe is a mechanic? That is a great field to go into, right? As well. But she couldn't get there. She couldn't get there because she was so afraid. So let's keep talking for a minute. Let's take a look at this slide. Ms. McDonald, do you see my slide okay? Okay, great. I'm not sure if she probed or not. Maybe she did a little bit. She certainly evaluated or judged pretty quickly, right? And maybe again, she interpreted that he wanted to quit school. And if she had listened, there's a deeper issue there. It wasn't about that at all. So let's go back to the highly effective practices of communication. We need to practice it. Effective communication takes practice. That's why we call it a habit. What do they say? 21 days makes a habit. So let's make our homework 21 days and really put ourselves in this position. Did she ask to be understood? Not really, because she didn't even get to that point. He was too emotionally upset by that time. By the end of the conversation, she couldn't even be understood. She jumped right in, cut him off. He got emotional. He got backed into a corner, right? When we look at empathic listening, there's an intent and a skill. I'm adding something to the skill now. There's an intent. And the intent for effective listening needs to be listening for understanding. When I'm training, and I don't know in your professions what you do and with your families, but one of the things I do when I work with people, when I'm in person, is I stop and kind of square my body and have my body kind of towards them, because body language helps with communication as well, or can hinder it. I know we believe that. We've probably seen people with ineffective body language, even subtle things. The way we stand, the way we cross our arms, where we stand. And if you remember back in the video, the mom stood behind the counter. So there was actually a physical barrier between her and her child. When she went up to the sofa, she even had a physical barrier between her and her son again with the sofa. There's a lot to be said for furniture, for our tone of voice, for our volume level, our pace, our authenticity, and how we use our body language. Okay, here's another research thing. You're going to love this. When we are truly in sync with somebody, like really, really listening and trust is high, we actually start to mimic each other's body language. Yeah, keep your eye on that. I notice that sometimes with friends, just simple things like they may be doing this, and all of a sudden I'm doing this, or this kind of thing, and then all of a sudden I do this. And it's human behaviorism, and it really means that you're really in sync with somebody. So anyway, something to think about as you talk to your children and your families and those people in your workplace. All right, so here we go. Our beautiful mom in that video. Yes, it's true. She went through the 7 Habits training. So we are about to see what happened when she really, really understood, right, what empathic listening is. All right, this is a little bit longer video. If you're taking notes, this would be a good time to take some notes because we're going to learn a lot. I'm really excited about that.
Too often, we listen to others with the intent to reply. Empathic listening is an altogether different way of being. It is listening with the intent to understand, with the intent to get to the bottom of an issue. It's one of the most important habits any leader can practice. It's the key to effective results in interpersonal relationships, in teams, and in organizations. When we listen empathically, we try to understand the other's point of view with no judgment, with no preconceived end in mind. We simply seek to understand. We temporarily suspend our view long enough to see the world through their eyes. Only people who are secure enough with themselves, those with a firm grasp of the private victory, have the capacity to listen in this way. It's important to note that empathic listening is not about agreeing or disagreeing. It's not about solving or fixing or figuring someone out. It's simply about understanding another's point of view and feelings. Watch what happens when you listen with the sole intent to understand.
Doing your homework?
What's the point? I'll never use it.
Sounds like you're frustrated.
I'm just sick of school. It's pointless. I mean, look at Joe. He dropped out of school, has a full-time job, has his own car, his own apartment, and I'm stuck here trying to decipher some ancient Greek play no one even cares about.
So you think Joe's got it better?
I mean, Joe's always bragging about how much better his life is now that he doesn't have to worry about teachers bossing him around or everyone telling him what to do.
Joe's got a lot of freedom.
Yeah, I mean, at least he's doing something. He has to work late nights so he can't hang out with us as much or go to the games, but at least he's going somewhere.
So he's missing out on a lot, but at least he's moving forward.
I just can't get this stuff. Dad's gonna kill me. You won't tell him, will you?
You're worried about what Dad'll think?
It's just he always talks about how education is important and how he expects me to go to college, but how can I do that if I can't do this?
So you're worried that if you don't understand this, then you won't get it in college either.
I know I can't. They gave me a reading test, right? On the reading test, I scored on the 9th grade level, Mom. The 9th grade. I'm a senior.
And that worried you.
No matter what I do, I just don't get it. And I know Dad will know that I'm flunking out. I don't want to quit school, but I don't know any way out.
You don't want to drop out of school, and you don't want to disappoint Dad.
Right. So what will I do?
I'm not sure. But I'm sure we can figure things out.
All you need to do is reflect what they feel and say in your own words. And because it's so simple, we often underestimate its power. If you don't believe me, just try it tonight with someone important to you. Just simply reflect what they feel and say in your own words. Remember now, listen with the intent to understand, not to reply. It's the key to opening up people's hearts and getting to the real issue.
Wow. Whew. That was a difference. I would love to hear from you. What are y'all thinking? Would she do well? How did she change?
I think he had a better sense that someone else was on his side because she was a active listener.
Yeah, thank you, Brittany. And I will say this, she talked a lot less. She barely said anything.
She repeated a lot of what he said, and which led him to believe that she was understanding of his problem.
Yeah, and it wasn't too weird though. You know what I mean? You know, how sometimes people say, I hear you saying that you have a bad cough, you know, and that can be kind of hokey and kind of corny. She was really authentic and just taking it in, wasn't she? What
I
else?
think oh, Murphy, did you want to make a comment?
Nope, I already made my comment. I was just agreeing. Just
Okay. I was just saying, when you hear someone else basically say what you're saying out loud, it may come across differently, and then you kind of realize what it sounds like or what you now see when you hear it.
Yeah, well said. Anybody else? What are you thinking?
Karen said she made him feel she was more concerned about him and his fears of disappointing his father, and that she was willing to work with him.
Yeah, that was tough for me. I don't know about you parents, but I think when he said, what do we do now? I would have been so quick to say, okay, I've got the plan. First, we'll call a tutor. Then we'll call the Sylvan Learning Center. I would have jumped right into action and problem solving. And, you know, if this were a real situation, I would hope that because she didn't do that, as a family, they would gather as a family and come up with solutions together. Who else wants to jump in there? Anybody? What about the furniture? Come on. Did you see what she did? Came right around. She moved the pillow, people. She moved that pillow so there were no physical barriers between her and her son. I thought that was really cool. Any other thoughts, parents? Daniela, you have something?
I was just thinking that because she was responding with questions about exactly how he felt, she opened it up for him to be able to say, no, that's not. Like she might have understood him wrong. And so by repeating it from her point of view, she was able to make clear what he was saying so that he was completely understood.
Oh, wow. Yeah, so think about the first scenario, okay? The first scenario, she walked away thinking he wants to move in with Joe and quit school. Second scenario, because she did exactly what you said, Danielle, is that she found out he really is struggling with one of his content areas or maybe with reading. She would have never found that out if she had acted like she did in the first scenario. So, yeah.
She heard it completely differently.
Yes, yes. She was empathic. So what are we going to do? All right. I'm talking to myself here too. We're all getting better at this. All right. Keep saying that because we are. It's a skill. So what can we do as people and as parents with those that we work with our family? Number one, just stay still. And I kind of mean that even physically. When someone's talking to us, it's real easy to be all over the place, even physically. Check your breathing, relax. Take it in, stand, square off with somebody in a positive way. Look at them in the eye and just kind of soak it in. Move the pillow, so to speak. Kind of metaphor there for what we saw. Move the pillow, move the barriers. Number two, ask your kids or some trusted friends, how am I doing with communication? Like really tell me. Get somebody objective who doesn't just tell you what you want to hear. Now, come on. Somebody who's really going to be honest with you and say, all right, here's what I think you do well. Here's what I think you can improve on. And then if you're really brave and courageous, you may want to videotape or audio tape yourself if you're giving a presentation, as you're holding a family meeting, if you're talking to somebody on the phone, and just kind of do some self-reflection. How am I doing with communication? How much do I talk versus the person I'm with? Who's really listening? Are we having a conversation together or our own separate conversations while we're together? Ever been there? Wait, are we even talking to each other? Yeah. So there's some homework for you. And again, empathic listening means this: putting yourself or myself into somebody's shoes to the best of your ability, right? The best way that you can put yourself in their shoes. It's not sympathy. And I said that up front, because sympathy, although there's a place for it, can sometimes be disabling or enabling versus empowering. Think about that. When we're empathic, we're empowering. We're empowering people to share, like that young man did in the video, to share and to be transparent. When we're sympathetic, we can get sucked into the emotion and never really hear that person and what they're trying to say. So, all right, we're getting close to the end. I can't believe it. This has just flown by. This is like, I think, my favorite habit. I don't know, because it's really hard for me. It's really hard just to be quiet sometimes, especially since I talk for a living. And it's hard as a parent, because we do have wisdom and we do have experience and we do have things to share with our kids, and that's our job. So keep this in mind as you look at this. There are times as human beings where we're not going to talk at all. We're going to have the courage to hit that stoplight. Just nope, don't even talk. There are times when we need to just slow down, listen, don't jump in, let that person talk. And then there are times when we can say, okay, Brittany, Miss McDonald, I heard what you had to say. I took it in. Would it be okay if I shared my opinion with you? And then that's that seeking to be understood piece of the habit. Remember, the habit is seek first to understand and then to be understood. So listening and valuing and respecting someone first, and then asking if you can be understood as well. It's a real skill. Let's take a look at these empathic listening tips. Focus on your intent, the intent to just listen. Sometimes we get caught up in a couple of things. Number one, we get afraid of the silence. I've been that way, sometimes on the phone or riding in a car with business associates. I'm afraid of the silence, so I just keep talking. Or sometimes I worry that I'm not going to sound politically correct, or I'm not going to say the right thing, or maybe I don't know enough about the subject, and that can be intimidating. So again, sometimes just be quiet, share, shake your head, just be with that person. So many times people just want to know that someone's with them and listening. Ask clarifying questions if you need to. Tell me more about, what do you mean by that? Can you give me some more information? And stay with the subject that the speakers brought to the table. You've heard that saying, I was talking to someone and they went squirrel on me. Squirrel. And I guess that means, my daughter talks about that. I guess squirrel means somebody goes off on another direction, right? And they talk about something totally different. So it's really important that we, as effective communicators, stay with the subject at hand. And then beware of this. Finally, I just want to share this. It's called autobiographical listening. And it's when we put our story on somebody else's. All right. So Ms. Gibbons, if you're talking about the new car that you just bought, in order for me to relate to you, I might jump in and tell you about my new car that I just bought. Or you might talk about going shopping and I might say, well, hey, I went shopping last weekend too. I went over to the mall in Orlando. And all of a sudden, guess what? I'm talking about myself and not even really listening to you at all. No, Ms. Gibbons, I did this with good intent because I wanted to connect with you. I wanted to bond over shopping. But what happened was I took over and hijacked our conversation. Anybody relate to that? I've done it. I've been there, done that. What thoughts do you have? Anybody jump in? What are you thinking right now about communication?
Communication is key to any relationship you have, whether it's a relationship with a partner, your children, work.
Yes.
Any relationship you have, communication is key, because without communication, we're not mind readers. So if you don't tell me how you feel, I won't know. Us as parents, asking our children you know, are you okay? How does that make you feel? You know, what happened? Actually trying to talk to them to make, you know, to have them feel like it's okay to show our emotions and to be emotional, because some kids, some people, they feel like they have to be tough all the time. So talking, communicating, they just shut down. Yeah. So communication is key in any relationship, as a parent with your child, your partner, your colleague, your boss, anybody. It's very important to have open communication, honest communication with each other.
Well said. So beautifully said. And it looks like my battery might die, and I hope it won't, because I want to show you a final video. Ms. McDonald, you might want to go ahead and put the survey in the chat just in case we lose power here. And I'm going to go ahead and share the final video with you. And I'm going to find it. And it's one of the best videos I've seen. If we get cut off for some reason, I'm having some difficulties with the storm here in Jacksonville. Please write this down and look it up. Google this video. It's not about the nail. This is the way we're going to end today, and you're going to love it. Let's take a look.
It's just, there's all this pressure, you know? And sometimes it feels like it's right up on me, and I can just feel it, like literally feel it in my head, and it's relentless. And I don't know if it's going to stop. I mean, that's the thing that scares me the most, is that I don't know if it's ever going to stop.
Yeah. Well, you do have a nail in your head.
It is not about the nail.
Are you sure? Because, I mean, I'll bet if we got that out of there.
Stop trying to fix it.
No, I'm not trying to fix it. I'm just pointing out that maybe the nail is causing.
You always do this. You always try to fix things when what I really need is for you to just listen.
See, I don't think that is what you need. I think what you need is to get the nail.
See, you're not even listening now.
Okay, fine. I will listen. Fine.
It's just, sometimes it's like there's this achy, I don't know what it is. And I'm not sleeping very well at all. And all my sweaters are snagged. I mean, all of them.
That sounds really hard.
It is. Thank you. Ow!
Oh, come on. If you would just...
Don't.
That is not effective listening. So I hope you took some great tips away tonight. Now, give it some practice. I know I will. And I'll share the good and the bad and the ugly with you when we get back together and jump into habit 6. Ms. McDonald, do you have anything as we end today?
I did enjoy that video. That was great. It's hard to be a listener like that, but that is important. I did add the link. So if you are interested in receiving the kit that comes with the guide, the calendar, and the book, it is free, and we can send it to your child's school. You just use the link to provide us your information.
Awesome. Ms. Gibbons, anything you want to end with?
Thank you. Thank you for having me. This was my first session, and I loved it. You did, both of you and Brittany did great. Very informative.
Thank you.
Thanks. It's just such great content, everybody. And I hope you're taking it to heart. I know I do. And again, love your kids, love your families, love your lives. You're amazing. Happy New Year, everybody. And I'll see you soon. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.